Hello everybody, it's Dio from Firm But Fair Gaming, bringing you another video.
Hello everybody, welcome to another Diablo 3 video here in Season 28. Today we are taking a look at the Necromancer and in particular the Legacy of Dreams build. So for those that are unfamiliar with the Legacy of Dreams, this is a legendary gem that while you have no set bonuses equipped, every legendary item you have equipped increases your damage by X percent and reduces your damage taken by 2%. And then this effect is doubled for ancient items. So here I have a rank 99 Legacy of Dreams. So a legendary item is going to be 375% increased damage and 2% damage mitigation. And then an ancient item will be 750% damage and 4% damage mitigation. Okay, as we take a look at the items in the build, just going to throw up a 110 that we did utilizing this build so you can see what it looks like in action. I will say this is that this build does require high mob density. We are terrible at single target utilizing this, much like Tragouls, although it felt early on, mind you, I don't have a ton of ancient items that Tragouls was a little bit stronger. I assume that once I get all ancients that will level out. If not, we might pull ahead using this. But anyways, just wanted to call that out early that if you don't have a ton of ancient items, you may be better off doing Tragouls build over this, as it is pretty much the same thing with just different items. That being said, we'll now look at all the items that are utilized in this build. So for the helm, we are using Layered Crown. So the unique affix for this is that it doubles the effect of the gem that is in equipped, or up to doubles. So this one is actually quite poor. It's only 77%, but it can go up to 100%. So it would give you twice as much cooldown. The Mantle of Channeling is our shoulders. So while channeling, we deal 25% more damage and take 25% less. We're using the Aquila Cuirass, so while above between 90 and 95 primary resource, all damage taken is reduced by 50%, so some survivability. We are taking the Stone Gauntlets, so getting hit increases our armor by 50%, but reduces our move speed by 15 and attack speed by 20. So that is just, again, adding some survivability. We are going into or utilizing the Witching Hour. So this is just a DPS belt. The advantage of this being that it has both attack speed and crit. I have opted for the Lucuni Prowlers because they have attack speed on them as well. So then theoretically, if this was a good roll, we'd have crit chance, attack speed, plus elemental. For our pants, we would be using the Blackthorn's Jousting Pants. All elements should be physical. I just haven't re-rolled the items into that yet. For the boots, because we have that we can't be CC'd and the passability through the seals, I've opted for the Steward's Greaves just for mobility. So after we use Blood Rush, we get increased movement speed. And for our weapon, so in case you're unfamiliar, you can have one crafted primal as well as many primals that you have found. So that is why this one is a crafted primal. So I've opted to do that to my funerary pick. So this makes Siphon Blood draw blood from 2 additional targets, and each target takes 300% increased damage from us unless there's one target, in which case the effect is doubled. And then Siphon Blood Power Shift is now 20% per stack, and it benefits all skills. So that is what we gain when we're doing our power shift. We'll be casting Death Nova at the same time in this build and stacking up to 10 times to do a bunch of damage. And then we also have the Iron Rose. So attacking with Siphon Blood has a 100% chance to cast a free Blood Nova, like I mentioned, and it can deal up to 50% increased damage for a minute, and then that stacks up to 10 times. For our jewelry, we're going to be using the Haunted Visions. So this is Sims now drain 1% of our life every second, but they last forever. And they can now duplicate our Grim Scythe, which we don't have because we'll never run out of essence, but they'll cast the same spells as us. And then we also are using convention of elements, so we gain up to 200% increased damage to our elements, so that is what is rotating down here. So the one that we want is physical, so on physical is when we would see the biggest damage spike. And then also using Crispin's sentence here, so we deal up to 100% increased damage against slowed enemies, and then triple bonus if they are affected by any other type of CC, so such as a stun, which we'd get from casting our bone armor with dislocation. And yeah, so that rounds out our items, and so we'll take a look at their legendary gems. So before we jump into that, I do want to say that as you can see in the video, we're now fighting the Rift Guardian, and you'll be able to see that it is quite slow because again, there's no trash to fight with it. So Rift Guardian killing on this build, same as Trigos, is fairly slow. So kind of hoping that we get a Connie proc off of our potion to help whittle it down a lot quicker. In pushing keys, you'll want a boss that it adds, or you'll want to save a pylon so that the Guardian will spawn, and then you can pop the pylon just to get additional adds to nuke it down. Anyways, that being said, the legendary gems that we're utilizing are Bane of the Stricken, so each attack we make against the enemy increases the damage it takes from our attacks, and that stacks, and then at rank 25 we get 25% increased damage against bosses and Rift Guardians. We are then also using Bane of the Trapped, so increased damage against enemies that are under the effects of control impairing effects, and then by a certain percent, and then at rank 25 we get an aura that gives us the proc to proc that damage, that being that only Juggernauts would be immune to the damage. And then, of course, as mentioned at the start, we're using Legacy of Dreams, so that would be our third legendary gem. Moving over to our cube, let me just move the video to the side. So in the cube, we are using Blood Ties, so Death Nova deals 400% increased damage for every enemy within 25 yards, up to 25 enemies, so that's why we want to be surrounded. And then we're using Daytonese Binding, so we get an additional 50% damage reduction when an enemy is afflicted by any of our curses. And then we are using Unity for survivability, so all damage taken is split between wearers of this item. So we wear Unity either on us or in the cube, and then our follower also wears a Unity, and that'll give us that 50% damage mitigation. Okay, taking a look at the skills. So we have Siphon Blood with Power Shift. So this is what is we're going to channel on enemies, and then it's going to cast a free Death Nova, which brings us to our next one, which is Death Nova with Blood Nova. So we're just going to spend health to unleash a Blood Nova that deals 450% weapon damage to all enemies within 25 yards. We're using Bone Armor with Dislocation for survivability plus a stun. Blood Rush with Potency, so this is going to be movement plus every time we use the Blood Rush we're going to get 100% armor for 2 seconds. Leech with Blood Flash, so this is an all necro build, so we're going to curse a target, and then while they take damage we heal, but more importantly whenever a cursed enemy dies it reduces our cooldown on our potion by 1 second, which will let us spam our potion and get multiple buffs all going at once. Then we're going to use Simulacrum with Blood and Bone, so the Sims are going to basically cast our spells, so they'll be casting Death Nova as well. And then for our passes, we have Standalone, which is going to increase our armor by 100%, reduced by each active minion. Spreading Malediction, we're going to receive 1% bonus for each enemy that's afflicted by a curse, and since we want to be surrounded, it's going to be a lot. Then we have Swift Harvesting, which is going to increase our attack speed of our Blood Nova, which is coming from our Siphon Blood. And then Final Service, we're going to have a second life just for some extra survivability. For rotation, it's going to be pretty simple. We're going to enter into the rift, summon our Sims, then we're going to curse our target, blink on top of them using Blood Rush, stun, and then start utilizing our Siphon Blood and pop your potion there whenever you feel comfortable. So if you want to pop it as soon as you get in or once you get a stack, do as you see fit, and then you're just going to rinse and repeat all the way through. You won't need to refresh your Sims because they should last forever. However, if you do proc like Final Service procs, you may hear like a Sim sacrificing noise, and then you would just want to watch them because sometimes it will sacrifice one of them, or you'll have both of them for about 30 seconds or maybe even a minute. Then when your buff falls off, and then one of them just might disappear. So just keep an eye on that. There's been several times in season 27, as well as on the PTR, where I noticed where one of my sims just happened to disappear. So kind of as you're blinking around and moving around, just keep a count to make sure that you have two of them, and if not, you'll have to refresh, because if you're missing one of them, your damage is going to be significantly mitigated. So that brings us to the end of the video. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer those. And as always, we appreciate it. Like, share, and subscribe. So please click those buttons. And of course, you can come find me on Twitch. So please do so. Come hang out. Let's run some keys. Talk Diablo. Love to do that sort of stuff. And of course, until next time, I hope you're enjoying Diablo 3 Season 28.